There I was, standing at the highest point in Japan. The summit of Mount Fuji, long regarded as a spiritual place, stands a whole 3,776 meters above sea level. The 8 hours of hiking, lit only by the lights of my fellow climbers' headlamps, was exhausting, yes, but the sun joining the other mountain peaks above the clouds was a sight to behold. There, watching the birth of a new day in the land of the rising sun, I sat in silence among friends in scattered black pumice stones. I had come a long way during my time in Japan. I had begun my journey quite lonely, actually. Despite stepping into one of the most densely populated cities on the planet, I had never felt more alone. The lights, crowds, and bustle of city life were, well, foreign to a Minnesota-grown girl who, despite previous travels, had seen nothing of the sort. Be it by luck, chance, or accident, though, I began to feel less estranged from my new home. It started at an awkward welcome party in a tatami mat room on the dormitory campus. There was too little sleep and too much sushi pizza to even remember any names. But, being new exchange students struggling together to learn a new culture, our bond cemented. It took embarrassing ourselves at the grocery store together, where we often initially questioned how edible certain unrecognizable foods were. It took us getting lost on our snaking city bike commute to campus numerous times, despite the adequate instructions from our well-versed Japanese friends. Our strong connection was made by many small moments where, despite our often very different backgrounds and perspectives, we could come together and struggle through the same daily routine that would have been so much easier had we just stayed at home. It wasn't only those close relationships, though, that made me feel as though I were a part of the city that was once so cold. It was also the fleeting relationships and small gestures that made me feel at home. There was a young couple, plucked randomly out of a stream of people, who spent an hour leading my friends and I through the maze-like back streets of Harajuku. They did much more for me than help to find the rabbit cafe that night. The elderly woman in Himeji, who discussed the sweltering heat with me while we admired the ancient castle in front of us, did more for me than offer friendly conversation. The hospitable family, eager to learn about life in Minnesota, provided more than a home-cooked meal of sushi, hot pot dipped in bright yellow raw egg, and handmade sea urchin mousse. They all cultivated within me a sense of belonging through their actions that ranged anywhere from simple directions to including me in a traditional cherry blossom viewing party on the banks of a breathtaking pink-tinted lake. Towards the end of my journey, it was sometimes even the moments that I chose to be as alone as I had been in the beginning that I felt anything but. As I was wandering the almost comically ancient-looking streets of Kyoto by myself, seeking cold soba noodles to end a hot day, I felt a sense of capability that I was completely without when I had begun my adventure to Japan. Those same crowds that had once felt so isolating became filled with potential encounters and friendly faces. Even at the top of Mount Fuji, so remote that I speculated to be the only place in Japan without vending machines, I found community. Not only was I with my dear friends, but I was also with the rest of the travelers who came to this place seeking answers, and with the other Japanese that made the same spiritual journey yearly. Possibly aided by the Shinto spirits, who were called to the mountain by the chains of sacred paper blowing in the cold summit wind around me, I realized that it didn't really matter where I was. Whether I was in Minnesota or the busy streets of Tokyo, I could find a sense of belonging anywhere. And in Japan, you're never really alone.